Hey, everybody. Hey, this is a must watch and must spread to all that you know. People have to see how bad this system is. They just don't know until they see it. Imagine this happening to your family or to you. This cop uses the flock cameras that are put all over the country. You'll see them everywhere in every town. And he starts looking on there for, he has no crime, but he's kind of like building a case because he doesn't know. He's just looking at all these flock cameras for the reason of this podcast. So the civil rights lawyer does a great job on this video, and I want to spread it. So please spread this. Check this out.
Well, you're gonna have to get a warrant if you want anything else, and I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. And that's when he got mad.
Everyone's the same.
You have a warrant. You have a warrant. This is being videotaped. I hope you know that.
Everyone's outside now.
What's your name? I'm not obstructing you. I have focus and all. You have a warrant. You have a warrant.
I didn't think he was gonna walk straight by me and do what he wanted to do.
Yet another police officer caught on home surveillance footage busting in a house without a warrant and illegally arresting this mom in front of her children, basically doing exactly what the U.S. Supreme Court said is unconstitutional.
I just kept asking him, do you have a warrant? And I was calling 911 at the same time. And about that time, 911 answered. And when I went to talk to the 911 operator, he snatched me up and took my phone away and told me I was under arrest.
You're hindering my investigation.
Nevertheless, his department says they did nothing wrong and they are completely gaslighting the public and the media, lying about what the law is. And there's no way that I am going to allow that. So let's completely break this down and you'll see that there's no getting out of this for them.
He was like, well, I'm in charge, and told me who he was. And I said, well, good. Is it legal for your officer to come into my house without a warrant and arrest me? And he was like, well, no, but that's not what he said happened.
This is girl's house? No, this is mom's house. His mom? Yeah. Everyone's the same.
You have a warrant. You have a warrant. This is being videotaped. I hope you know that.
This is Corporal Charles Mills of the Cherokee, Georgia Sheriff's Office, just nonchalantly walking up this woman's front steps, about to barge into her home through her front door, knocking back her juvenile child without a warrant. And this is Natasha Lopez, the owner of the home, who demanded a warrant but was ignored by Corporal Mills. So why was Corporal Mills barging into this woman's home, and what was his claimed justification for doing so when he did not have a warrant? Well, it started a day or two earlier where Corporal Mills claims to have seen this guy on a motorcycle, and he wanted to catch up with the guy, and he wanted to pull him over, he wanted to arrest him, but he never did. He didn't know who he was. But this guy apparently really loves his authoritarian surveillance systems, and he uses flock cameras, which he apparently loves and uses often, to get a bunch of photographs of this motorcycle, which he believes is Natasha's adult son, who's like 21 years old. Now, that adult son does not live at this home with Natasha. Corporal Mills is aware of this fact. The adult son is not a fugitive. The adult son does not have an arrest warrant at this point. This officer is just undertaking an investigation. He believes it was the adult son. He has pictures which he thinks looks like the adult son. But he's already confronted the adult son, and he denies it. But Mills just won't let it go. He knows where the suspect's mother lives. Not the same day as he observed the motorcycle. There was no pursuit or anything like that. This is just his investigation. There's been no arrest warrant issued. There's been no search warrant issued. And this has nothing to do with the homeowner, Natasha Lopez, other than she's his mother. So Mills goes to her house. And I think he did so because he saw that the adult son's girlfriend's car was there at that house. And he wants to continue questioning the son. So he goes up and he rings the doorbell. He knocks on the door and nobody hears him. There's no answer. Now, part of the reason for that is Natasha is off at like the trampoline park with the kids. She's not home. But as she is returning home, her adult son asked for a ride to her home presumably to meet his girlfriend who was there. And as they pull in, guess who's waiting for them? It's Corporal Mills. And he's actually blocking them from properly pulling into their driveway. I had the opportunity to speak with Natasha about exactly what happened, and this is what she had to say. Had you just been coming home?
Mm-hmm. We were out. I took the little kids to Jumping World, a trampoline park. We were at the trampoline park, and my son asked for a ride home, which was like a stoplight down. And so we grabbed him, and we came home. And I had no idea the police were going to be at the house. You know, they knew Chris didn't live with me. They were just at his apartment. So for them to be at my house was weird anyway. He said, "Do you remember me?" And I didn't remember him. I told him no. And he told me who he was. And I was like, okay, well, what can I do for you? And he was like, I wanted to see if I could ask you some questions about Chris and his motorcycle. And I was like, well, what about it? And he was like, do you know where the motorcycle's at? And I said, well, didn't you just talk to my son 10 minutes ago? And he was like, well, yeah. And I said, well, you're going to have to get a warrant if you want anything else, and I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And that's when he got mad.
Where was this conversation taking place?
In my front yard. Yeah, because I couldn't park anywhere but on the side of the road, because him and another officer were blocking my house. So he was parked here, and then there was another officer down here, his partner.
What was the first thing that he said to you?
Do you remember who I am? And I didn't, and I just kind of shook my head confused. And then he was like, I was the officer that investigated the burglary at Hobgood Park. And I knew immediately who it was, because I remember being sickened by him many years ago when he kind of just tricked these young kids, you know what I mean? Just told them it was going to be okay, and then charged them with a felony. And I was very disappointed in who he was back then. So I kind of knew the direction this was going to go, but I decided to be, respectful and entertain it for a minute. It wanted to see if there was something that I could possibly help him with. But mind you, there wasn't anything. And I had told him hey, you're just going to have to get a warrant if you want anything else from anybody, because I don't have the time to stand out here and do this, which I didn't say all of that. I kept it short and respectful. But he got mad, and he was like, okay, that's fine. I'm going to go get a warrant to arrest your son. So tell him to stay right there and don't go anywhere.
All right. So they're looking for your son. They know that he does not reside at your home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they do not have an arrest warrant for your son at that time.
No, because they had just came from talking to him right before my house. The allegations is that he had passed my son's allegedly speeding on his motorcycle on a different day. It wasn't even that day. They were going opposite directions, allegedly, and he said he tried to turn around. This is just all from his report, but he didn't have a tag or know who it was, so he used flock cameras. The flock cameras, he traced the bike, went, did all of that, and that's how he ended up where he was. But he didn't have anything outside of the flock cameras, and so that's what he was doing. And I didn't have anything for him, so, I didn't literally just don't know anything about anything. And this is my home, and I have young kids here, so I was just like, you're going to have to go away, essentially, unless you have a warrant. So he got mad, and in response, it was, I'm going to get a warrant to arrest your son, which didn't make much sense to me, because why didn't you just do that 10 minutes ago and arrest him at work? Why are you doing that at my house? It was just really weird. He immediately got very paranoid and very, emotionally dysregulated. And you could tell. You know what I mean? His demeanor did. And so I thanked him. He immediately got irritated and said, he was going to do that with my son. And I just said thank you and walked away. I went to the house and I told my son, I was like, hey, he's probably going to arrest you, so just be prepared for that.
Now, he wrote in his report that he talked to you first, and then when you said to go get a warrant, he then applied for and received a warrant to arrest your son.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yeah. So he told me, when I wouldn't talk to him, he told me, fine, I'm going to go get a warrant to arrest your son, so make sure you tell him to stay there and don't go anywhere. It was more like a haha, screw you type thing. I didn't let him bait me, and I was like, my son's 21. What am I going to do? I'm like, okay, thank you, and walked away. And he did. It was about 10 minutes later, he walked back up to the house and said he had a warrant for my kid. He came right out. My son's very quiet and kind and reserved. He's not an issue at all whatsoever. And my son was arrested right there in the front yard. He put him in handcuffs, and that's why we were on the porch. He put him in handcuffs and started to pat him down, and he started to ask him questions. And immediately, me knowing like who this officer was and like watching how he just did this with like the warrant because he was irritated, I was like, Chris is going to plead the fifth and he's going to ask for an attorney. And I said, Chris, you need to go ahead and tell him. And so he told him, he's like, I plead the fifth and I want an attorney. And Officer Mills was like, that's fine. And then right about that time, I like noticed his partner was down looking in my garage. And so I took my eyes off of him for a minute, and I was like, why are you in my garage? I might even ask him if he had a warrant. I was like, what are you doing? I said, Chris is right here. Why are you down there in my garage?
Do you have a warrant? Why are you like in my house, my garage? Okay, well, Chris is right here.
Looking for the motorcycle.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, right? Like, that's what I thought too. I was like, okay, these people probably think I'm just being, whatever. Never mind, I have rights, but I'm just trying to be like difficult, and there's a motorcycle hidden in my garage. Like, that's what I thought they were thinking, right? But it was weird. And so I was like, okay. So he came up, and about that time Officer Mills, the one that arrested me and my son, started to take my son to the car. And about that time, my teenager and my younger kids started to come outside because they thought whatever was going on was over. As they came out at the exact same time, Officer Mills said to me and my boyfriend, he was like, y'all stay right here. And at that time, I turned around to my kids and I said, go back inside. But then when he went up to the car, and as I was like standing on the porch, I heard him start to question my kid again. Like, as he's up at the car, putting him in there, start asking him questions about a cell phone. I spoke up and I was like, why are you questioning him? He just told you that he wants a lawyer.
He said he's not talking anymore, he wants a lawyer.
At that time, he slammed his car door, and that's when he came back down. I want everybody out of the house. And I was like, no.
No, tell me a warrant.
So he had already arrested your son, had him in handcuffs, and put him in the police car.
Yeah, he put him in the police car, and then he was standing there trying to, like, and you'll see, like, in his report, he doesn't say, like, exactly when, but he does say that at 2 different times, he was asking him questions about a cell phone. So one of those times was the time that, I had spoke up again and was like, he's already told you. As soon as he was arrested, my son was like, I'm pleading the fifth and I want an attorney. And he just didn't stop. And he was mad, I guess, that I said something about it. So that's when he slammed the door from up there, and he came back down, and he was, at that point, everybody out of the house. And I was like, no, do you have a warrant? And he was like, I have reason to believe there's contraband in the house, I think is what he said. And I was like, do you have a warrant? And still at this time, I'm thinking he thinks the motorcycle's in my garage, So I was like, he needs to do the work, get the warrant, and then he's going to be disappointed because there's not a motorcycle in my garage,
Show me a warrant.
I believe that there's contraband. If it's my
Show me a warrant. Show me a
Do
warrant.
I need this house cleared?
Show me a warrant.
I'll clear it myself.
No, you won't. I'll call the police on you. I have dogs in my
Come on out of the
house.
house.
No.
Everyone's the same.
Do you have a warrant? Do you have a warrant? This is being videotaped. I hope you know that.
Even to lawfully arrest your son, so he knows your son does not reside there. If he's going to arrest a third party in your home, he needs more than just an arrest warrant for the third party. So if he's coming to your house to arrest your son who doesn't live there, he needs both an arrest warrant for your son and also a search warrant to enter your house. Did he ever get a search warrant for your house?
He got a search warrant to search the house for his cell phone. And that was it.
After he had already searched the house for his cell phone?
No, he didn't search it, but that was after he came in the house and made everybody get out and arrested me. 30 minutes later, he got a warrant for a cell phone, which he did not find in the phone in the house. See, none of us knew what he wanted. That was another thing. We didn't know what the hell was going on. That's why I called 911, because I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't think he was going to walk straight by me and do what he wanted to do, because that's what he did. He walked straight by me and pushed, the door open and went inside. My son was behind the door, and he was videotaping at this point. Through the top of the door, and so the officer smacked him with the door when he opened it.
Come on out of the house. Everyone's the same.
Do you have a warrant? Do you have a warrant?
And that's when he came in, and I came in behind him, and I called 911 because I don't know who else are you supposed to call when you need help. And I felt like I needed help. His his partner, I would have thought he couldn't even speak because he wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't talk. He didn't, so I felt like I needed to call for help. I didn't know what was going on. And I felt like I have dogs in there. So my first thing was like, oh my God, what if he like shoots them? Or, my young kids are in there and like, I was scared. But as soon as he opened the door and went in, he told my kids that they were, everybody was detained, get out of the house. I just kept asking him, do you have a warrant? And I was calling 911 at the same time.
Do you have a warrant? I'm going to call the police and I don't care. I'm going to call the cops.
Everyone outside now.
What's your name and your badge number?
If you continue to
I have
obstruct me,
kids. I'm not obstructing you. I have small kids and dogs. Do you have a warrant?
if you continue to
Do you have a warrant?
you're going to be placed under
Do you have a warrant?
Right now, get everyone out of this house right now.
He threatened to arrest me. He said, if you keep obstructing me, and I said, I'm not obstructing you. I have small kids and dogs in this house. Do you have a warrant to be in my house? And about that time, 911 answered. And when I went to talk to the 911 operator, he snatched me up and took my phone away and told me I was under arrest.
Yes, ma'am. 911. For what?
Obstruction.
I'm not assaulting.
You're hindering.
You're scaring my son.
Again, everyone is detained.
I called the police to confirm that you have a warrant.
And then he like pulled my arms up to like, I had to go up on my tiptoes and turn. Like he pulled I'm like 5'3" and he's super tall. And I felt like he was like intentionally, like he was pulling my arms up to my shoulder blades.
He came in first without a warrant, arrests you inside the threshold of your home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still does not have a warrant.
Mm-mm.
Anyone else in the house, make yourself known. Please exit.
I want my phone.
Doesn't he walk around inside your house
Mm-hmm.
after he arrests you?
He does. He walks around inside my house. He makes all the kids get out. So it was only my children and then my son's girlfriend that were in the home. And you can see it like in the video. They were all like standing right there in the same area, like wondering what's going on. But they knew I didn't want them to come outside because I don't want them to be like, and they didn't want to be. Like, I'm sure you saw my 9-year-old, that night has literally changed him. What they did to him traumatized him to his absolute core. And it got worse after that because I got took to the car. And again, I've never been arrested. I've never been in trouble. So I didn't, I got in the car. And then about that time, a lot of officers started showing up and I could see them, but none of them had came to the car. And I was like, I remember saying that I wanted a sergeant or a boss or somebody that wasn't this guy that was breaking into my house. And so I started yelling in the back of the cop car because it's soundproof and you can't hear yourself. So I didn't know if they could hear me. And so I'm like yelling, trying to get attention. Officer Mills' partner, Officer Hart, came to the car along with 3 other officers. And one of those officers was Lieutenant Brookshire. He's like 4 foot tall. And they came to the car and they opened the door and they're like, what? And I'm like, well, first I need you to take my jacket off because I'm going to have a panic attack. I have like panic disorder and being confined was probably one of the reasons I've never been in trouble because I can't be in confined spaces. But I was like, and also I want to talk to the sergeant. And he kind of piped up and he was like, well, I'm in charge, and told me who he was. And I said, well, good. Is it legal for your officer to come into my house without a warrant and arrest me? And he was like, well, no, but that's not what he said happened. And I looked at Officer Mills' partner, Officer Hart, and I said, well, you were there. Why don't you tell your boss what your partner just did? He wouldn't say a single word. He would not even look at us. He would not. And so it made me look stupid. So then I was like, okay, well, there's camera. And he was like, well, we'll watch the body cam. And I said, no, I have like house surveillance. You can go watch it and see that what I'm telling you is the truth. And he would not do it. And I said, okay, well, I'd already been in the back of the car for some time now. So I was like, well, if you're going to take me to jail, can you just go ahead and take me? I felt so violated, so stressed. You know what I mean? Like, I was like very upset. I was like, wow, this is really bad. So they got the search warrant for the phone. And when they got the search warrant for the phone, they came back to the porch because they all detained all of my kids and stuff to the porch for like 30, 40 minutes. So he knocks on the door and announces, sheriff's office search warrant, which I'm like, you already detained everybody and arrested me. Why are you doing that?
Oh, search warrant. I'm gonna get the window.
They're not.
I'll bring them off.
And then goes in there and searches for a few minutes. on one of the cameras, you can hear him telling the other officers that my son doesn't live there, because they were under the impression that he lived there, because they were like, where's his room? And they were like, no, this is his house is not here. This is his mom's house. And they were like, what?
Where does he stay when he's here? Apparently, you like moved from North Carolina like 2 weeks ago, and he's living in that apartment with a girl. Okay, but this is your girl's house? No, this is mom's house. His mom. Yeah. Yeah. But I know when, you know, at the point where I was like, he's under arrest, he's going to be, I know she came in to get him, and it appeared, I didn't see her go this way, it appeared like she went that way to where he would have been. So, downstairs up here. He got home from work. They went and picked him up and home, yeah. Yeah, shoot him. He didn't do anything like sick.
Well, I saw where they had made a statement to the news media. Something of their claim was that it was legal what he did because he was searching for people, or he was clearing the scene for officer safety. I believe it was.
He said he was. They made it out like they were in a like a high-speed chase type thing, and they were doing a protective sweep after arresting him, and they're glad somebody didn't get hurt. First of all, there was no chase.
The sheriff's office stands by their deputy, and while they wouldn't allow me to release the body cam footage publicly, they did allow me to view it, along with giving me a statement on Tuesday. In it, the sheriff's office says its deputy entered the home as part of a protective sweep before getting a signed search warrant for Lopez's son's phone.
But in reality, the chase he's alleging wasn't that day.
Mm-mm.
And the suspect that he thought that he believed to be involved in that chase, he had already arrested and was outside in custody inside his police car.
Mm-hmm.
So that was over with.
Mm-hmm.
And they're telling the news media that they just had to do a protective sweep to go inside your house, and that's why they didn't need a warrant, because of officer safety. But in reality, that arrest was already over. Your son was already in custody in the police car. And in his report, he says he went in without a warrant because he was looking for the cell phone. And he thought because you guys were all you and your kids were such a bunch of like hardened criminals that you were going to destroy that cell phone before you could get a warrant for it. His report does not match what his department told the media.
I know.
Which sounds better that, it was just, there was this arrest. He had an arrest warrant for the son, and so they were just doing a protective sweep for officer safety, just for the crime scene, right? So he didn't, and that wasn't it at all. Like, he literally went in your house to search for evidence that he just speculated could be inside your house.
Mm-hmm.
And because you told him no, he arrests you inside your house, also without a warrant.
Mm-hmm.
And then they gaslight the public by telling the media that, well, it was just a protective sweep for officer safety.
Yeah.
Even though that's not what he wrote in his 5-page report that he typed out, probably pecking with one finger.
Mm-hmm.
How long did they actually take you to jail?
They actually took me to jail.
How long?
Fingerprints. I had to strip down, mugshot, the whole 9 yards. I was there only that night until sometime after midnight. I was able to get out. But I mean, they said they gave me $1,000 bond, and I've never been in trouble before in my whole life. I'm like,
are the criminal charges against you still pending?
yes. Can you believe that? Yep.
You have not been to court yet on what you were arrested for.
I do have attorney, and he tried, to ask her to, essentially should her get off the pot. But it's still pending. She's not, which is crazy because
when you say she, who are you talking about? The prosecutor?
Mm-hmm.
And
the prosecutor.
Which prosecutor is this? Which prosecutor's office?
Cherokee County.
So the Cherokee, did you call solicitor? Is that what they call them?
Mm-hmm. For misdemeanors.
All right. So the Cherokee County Solicitor's Office is the one prosecuting this, and you haven't been to court on it yet.
No, but what's crazy is my son's girlfriend was arrested for obstruction, but then when he dropped her off, he gave her a citation. Her and my son were immediately given their court dates. Immediately, you know what I mean? But for whatever reason, mine is just, I don't know if they're intentionally sitting on it or, I don't know. At this point,
they're going to try to get you, I would suspect, having done this my entire career and also looked at these cases from across the country, when they're caught on video violating constitutional rights, no excuse for what he did, going in your house, arresting you illegally, violating the privacy of your home illegally. There's no excuse for that, except if you were to be convinced or coerced to plead guilty.
Yeah, no.
I mean, even though it was an illegal arrest, and it should be thrown out, and hopefully will be, you could still waive your rights and plead guilty. And that's what they do to people, is they coerce them. And so they have you under bond. And imagine if you couldn't afford the bond, you're sitting in jail. Mm-hmm. What they have to do is to get you to give in and plead guilty. And then it doesn't matter what the facts are. All that matters is that you said under oath that you are guilty. And so it doesn't matter anymore. So that's what they want. That is the only thing that protects his ass from what he has been captured on video doing here, hoping that you end up pleading guilty. Or I guess the judge could find you guilty, but what they really have no, unless they're able to delete this footage out of the world, there's no defense, in my opinion, anyways, that they would have to convict you. It would only be to coerce you, and maybe they try to use your son against you. I mean, that's I wouldn't put it past them.
I know.
That they try to work out a deal. All right, what's more important to them now, like the motorcycle thing and going after your son, or cleaning up what they were caught doing here? So we'll help out your son. We won't send him to prison, but you got to plead guilty on this. So, I mean, if I had to guess, that's what they're doing, because they have no case. As soon as it goes to court, it's probably going to have to be dismissed. They needed a warrant to arrest you in your own home, according to the U.S. Supreme Court. They need a warrant to search your own home, according to the U.S. Supreme Court. So it was an illegal arrest.
We're not taking a plea. We will file for a speedy trial as soon as you formally accuse me, and we will appeal it. If anything else, if I'm found guilty by a judge by some means, we would appeal it. I wanted criminal charges taken out against this officer. I felt like he was no better. I've never even had my home broke into. You know what I mean? Like, he was no better than a criminal breaking into my house. And when I went back and watched the footage of how bad my 9-year-old was, just completely so scared and traumatized, I haven't been able to watch it. I watched it once or twice, and then I just can't even go back because it makes me so disgusted, so angry.
They know, I know, they know damn well, if they watch that body cam or the videos you provided, this guy had no right to, when your son is in custody already in the car, to demand everyone out of your house and go in your house without a warrant when you tell him not to, and then arrest you. I mean, there is no excuse, and they know damn well their only hope, like I said, is that you end up getting convicted because you consent to it. Isn't it always true that the cover-up is worse than the crime? I mean, one rogue deputy, one rogue police officer not understanding or not caring about basic constitutional law 101, violating basically the most basic and most important rule of all of constitutional law. I mean, the one that we fought a Revolutionary War for, not having the government go in people's houses and search and arrest them without a warrant. But the situation where the employer, the government agency itself, is either so corrupt, so incompetent, or so brazen that they attempt to gaslight the public, just putting out there in the television news this straight up BS cover-up. But that actually makes it very easy for me to do my job here. So let's go through their statement to the media, and then let's look at Corporal Mills's own report and see if those two things match. This is their explanation for why what the public was outraged about was actually perfectly okay and not illegal. While conducting a felony traffic investigation involving a motorist traveling at dangerously high speeds, evading law enforcement, and endangering the public, notice they don't say when, it wasn't even the same day, A Cherokee Sheriff's Office deputy arrested Joseph Helms. The deputy believed that evidence of the suspect's crime was inside the home where he was arrested. The deputy requested everyone exit the home in order to secure it until a search warrant could be obtained. The homeowner physically obstructed the officer from securing the home by standing in the doorway and blocking it. She was subsequently arrested. A protective sweep, not a search, was initially conducted to ensure no one else was inside the home. The sweep lasted 22 seconds. A signed search warrant was then obtained less than 30 minutes following the homeowner's arrest. A search of the home was then conducted. We support the deputy's decision to secure the home, obtain a signed search warrant, and then ultimately locate the evidence to support his investigation. We are also pleased no one was injured by the suspect's actions and that we were able to make an arrest without having to conduct a high-speed pursuit. Would you want to guess that it was actually Mills himself that typed that out? That was some real Orwellian stuff there. I mean, making it sound like there was this high-speed pursuit and then he fled inside this house and they followed him inside the house. That might be actually a legitimate action that is not unconstitutional. That's not what happened. The alleged high-speed pursuit, if there was one, wasn't even the same day. They had already located Joseph and talked to him at work earlier that day and didn't arrest him at that time. This is completely gaslighting. They make it sound like he was arrested at the house and they had to secure the scene. Now let's look at the report. This is Corporal Mills's report. As I walked Joseph to my patrol car, so he admits in his report that he already had taken Joseph to the patrol car. He was already under arrest in handcuffs. I asked Joseph where his cell phone was, and he told me he did not have one, even though he provided me with his phone number a short time earlier at Papa John's. So I placed Joseph in the rear seat of my patrol car, and I went back to the residence. So we had already arrested Joseph. Joseph was in custody in the patrol car way off at the street, and then he decides to walk back to Joseph's mother's home and search her house for Joseph's cell phone, which he speculates must be in the house because it's not on his person. And why would a person not have a cell phone, right? He says, I knew Joseph's phone would be inside the residence at this location, as Joseph just came here with his mother directly from Papa John's, where I previously spoke with him, and he likely wouldn't have left it anywhere else. Time was clearly of the essence, as there was an exigent need to secure the residence/individuals at the residence to safeguard the cell phone from destruction. This exigency was based upon the totality of the circumstances, as parties at the residence were being uncooperative, lying, and purposefully hiding from me. I believed without a doubt the cell phone would be destroyed or removed from the house if they were aware I was seeking it for its evidentiary value and the time it would take me to obtain a search warrant. So there we have it. They have told the public that this was a protective sweep for officers' safety. It only took 22 seconds for them to go in the house and do this protective sweep. But then Corporal Mills himself admitted in his report that he was going in the house to search for this cell phone before ever applying for a search warrant for the cell phone. And then there's this little problem. Georgia is in the 11th Federal Circuit. I've discussed this case before on other videos, Moore versus Peterson, an 11th Circuit case from 2015, which is a problem for them here. It says police violate the Fourth Amendment when they effect a warrantless arrest at the threshold of a home where they lack probable cause and either exigent circumstances or consent. When the police knock on a door and the occupant chooses to open the door and speak with the officers, the occupant need not allow the officers to enter the premises and may refuse to answer any questions at any time. Did Corporal Mills get caught on video violating that very clearly established case law? Yes, he did. But the most important thing here is that Mills thought that he could just get an arrest warrant for Joseph and then arrest him at Joseph's mother's house. That's not the case. Stiegald versus United States says he would have to have both an arrest warrant and a search warrant because the Fourth Amendment rights belong to Natasha. It's her home. She doesn't lose her Fourth Amendment rights just by having her son as a guest at her home. They admitted in their press release that the arrest took place at Natasha's home. If that's the case, the arrest of Joseph itself was illegal. And this is why I believe what's happening here is even more egregious than just government incompetence. More than just one incompetent or out of control officer, this entire department has instead opted to lie to the public. And not only lie, but to lie in such a way is to try to trick you, to try to trick the public into believing that you didn't see what you saw. What happened was actually perfectly constitutional because there was this high-speed chase and they make it sound like the guy fled into this house. And here's why they did that. The general rule, according to Stigall versus United States, is that if the police want to enter the home of someone other than the person named in their arrest warrant because they want to arrest that person, they typically need a search warrant. That's to protect the rights of the third-party homeowner. Those are our rights as homeowners. Our home is our castle. There are only a couple of exceptions to that. One is consent. If the homeowner or someone with authority over the property gives consent for the police to enter and go arrest that person, then no search warrant is needed. But video footage proves here that the homeowner was demanding a search warrant and ended up getting arrested for doing so. They cannot claim consent here. So here is their only possible justification: exigent circumstances. And that's why Mills used the word exigency in his police report. So if there were urgent circumstances where immediate action is necessary, such as hot pursuit, if the officers are in hot pursuit of a fugitive and the fugitive just runs into this third party's home, the police can obviously follow without having to go get a warrant first to prevent that fugitive's escape. The other possible exigent circumstances, which pops up in like domestic violence cases all the time, is risk of imminent harm. If there's a reasonable belief that somebody inside this third party's house is in immediate danger, or if evidence critical to the case might be destroyed, the example used for that is drugs are being flushed down the toilet, for instance, officers might enter without a warrant under exigent circumstances. And that's why they tried to frame what happened here as a hot pursuit situation where there was this motorcycle chase and this kid ran into his mom's home. Not the facts at all. Nor is it a situation where there was somebody inside flushing cocaine down the toilet. In fact, there was no exigency, there was no emergency at all. What was the emergency that Joseph had to be arrested right then and there? Mills had already talked to him at Papa John's a couple of hours earlier. Joseph was not hiding, Joseph was not on the run. There was no arrest warrant for Joseph until after Joseph's mother asserted her rights, thereby pissing off Mills, this tyrant who was going to teach mom a lesson by now getting an arrest warrant for her son because she didn't submit to him, because she asserted her rights, and not only arrest her son at her home illegally, but also barge into her house, force all of her young children to come outside, and do everything that he did. This was about retaliation, pure and simple. There was no emergency at all. He was just doing these things because he knew that he could. Because usually nobody's watching, but now people are watching. You're watching. So if you care about your basic constitutional rights, if you don't want the government being able to enter your home unlawfully without a warrant, you should be upset about this. You have an out-of-control Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. They are going to respond to nothing but public outrage. That needs to be generated by you sharing this footage, like the video, comment the video, get that algorithm working so that more people and more people and more people see the footage. Also, the charges are still pending. Share this footage so that that prosecutor knows that you're watching them, that the public is watching, and they better do the right thing here. If I hear anything else, I'll update, and you can follow along at thecivilrightslawyer.com. You can follow me on X at JohnBryanESQ. Remember, our rights don't end where your fear begins. Freedom is scary. Deal with it.
So let's talk about this for a second. So basically, the cops know the law, but they twist it and turn it so they can be criminals to do what they're doing. But then when it gets to the public, they're like, oh no, we follow protocol. That's a bad cop. The officer that was with him and watching this happen and did absolutely nothing and aided and abetted everything that happened should be fired immediately too. They both should be fired immediately. But here's another problem. They went and got warrants in a matter of 10 minutes. So either the judge has been lied to by the officers, but they should be fired immediately, or, this is what I believe, the judges are bad, and they're going along with this bad system to charge people because cops are revenuers. They're interviewers. They couldn't investigate where their keys got lost at. Also, it does show you how they use these flock cameras that are all around your cities and even on the highways. You'll see them. You'll see them in the solar things on top, and you'll see the camera. Those are spying on you, running your plates. It's totally unlawful. It's against the Fourth Amendment. It's ridiculous. It's like running your plates. That should be illegal too, but somehow they're doing it. You should be able to film in a courtroom, but you can't because the judge won't allow you. That's what I'm saying. The judge knows the law, supposedly the Constitution, but why is he breaking the law? Because they don't want you to see the system. Hats off to the podcaster. Awesome job. And hats off to the lady because she stood strong and she's standing strong and she's doing exactly what you should do is sue the living shit out of them and don't give in to their crap because that's what they're trying to do. And that's another thing why the system's all crooked. Because look how they're trying to twist it where they're going to have her try and plead guilty, let her son off. They know they already did wrong. This is how Nazism is. It's all about Nazism. They want control over you. So hey everybody, spread this video. It's very important for your civil rights. The Constitution is getting stomped on by all these people. And so spread this so everybody can see for their own eyes what's going on. Because sometimes you have to see it before you can believe it. Love you guys. Subscribe, put a thumbs up, leave a comment. Have a great day.